most expensive and cheapest BMX, 1100 euros difference. Does this one jump alone?
They're super different.
Lighter and tougher?
Takes hits better. About the discount you already have, we'll apply your 10%. Three differences you don't see with the back end bent.
Nothing salvageable, everything's different. What's up, dudes? How's it going? We're at the 360 shop with Pera. What's up?
Hey.
Alright, so today we're doing a video, Nico's idea. Shout out from here. Alright, it's differences between an expensive and cheap BMX. If you're just starting out, in the BMX world, you might see two bikes that look practically the same to you, but there's a difference of like 1,000 euros or a huge gap. So today we've got the BMX expert Pera here, who's gonna tell us what changes between a cheap and an expensive BMX. Because there are also parents who want to buy a BMX for their kids and they don't get it.
Especially this video is for the dads and moms who around this time are gonna start looking online for bikes. It's super important to pick the right size and parts.
You gotta pick the BMX that best fits the rider's needs. So, alright, let's find the most expensive and cheapest BMX at 360.
It's the most budget-friendly bike we've got in the shop.
The Revo, it's always.
So that would be the beginner bike with some guarantees that you won't break your teeth in 2 days.
Of course, I want to point something out here. We're buying real deal BMX bikes, alright? Because those bikes from places I won't name.
Yeah, look, I really liked the video you did with that decathlon bike where every time you spent between 50 and 100 euros and at the end, I think it was over 1,000 euros. Well, I use that example a lot for kids. If you guys, boys or girls, are going from school to home and home to school, the decathlon one is enough. But if you want to try to get started,
basically for tricks,
that bike's no good.
Of course, now we're comparing real deal BMX bikes, the real ones. I mean, made specifically for doing tricks. We're considering the decathlon ones because, yeah, they're way cheaper, but those are for cruising. So, what's the cheapest one going for?
All right, this one, I don't think it hits 400. Now, we can use the code you already know, the one down here. Now, that 10% off is the first bike. It's starting to get good. All right, with the right geometry, the right weight, the right parts, but it's for beginners. If you're under 5 feet 9 inches, because otherwise it'll be too small. A taller person might have to pay 50 or 60 euros more because their weight and leg leverage are more than a shorter person's. So the bike has to be stronger and longer too. All right, we've got the first price bike. Now let's go with the most
I want to make a quick point. The Inglada code, a 10% discount might seem small, but on a 400 euro bike, that's 40 euros, which ain't bad at all.
And you can get a set of new spider pegs.
Or an Inglada seat, where is it? Inglada seat, dudes, for under 40.
The most expensive bike I've got, the shop's one of a kind. Because what I love doing most is building custom bikes, bikes where you guys decide the parts.
As you like it?
To your taste, and not just the looks, but to the necessary taste of someone who's 5'11". If they prefer the drivetrain on the left, all that stuff, a complete bike can be changed. It comes stock, but a custom build, we start from scratch. We start with a frame, pick a fork, pick handlebars. The best for the customer, right? And here we have one.
Which?
It's a sample, but it's true. It's got some of the best stuff.
With this, we see, the goal of the video is that there are two bikes that maybe at first glance you see the same color and stuff and you say there's no difference, just the rims that are a different color. But of course, we're talking about a difference of how much, Pera? How much is this one worth?
This one's 1,500.
This one's 1,500 and this one's 400. 1,100 euros difference, and you'll say, but what's this one got? Does this thing jump on its own? That's why I think it's super interesting for Pera to talk in full detail about the differences.
First thing we always got to keep in mind, the most important, and what I always say in all the Instagram and WhatsApp replies, which since they put the WhatsApp icon on the website, it's been crazy. The messages we get is that it's really cool. It's the size, right? You know, it's super important, right? There are several parts where the size matters a lot. All right, this is the first thing. If we focus on the frame, here we see two frames, few differences. You can see at a glance the different sizes. This is 20, this is 21, right? But what you don't see and what you're really paying for is the quality of the tubing. The tubing here is a high 10 steel tubing, which is the simplest of all. All right. In some bikes, from here to here, there are often many frames in between. What are the differences when we talk about a full high 10 bike? Is that all the tubing is high 10. We can say it has 2 chromoly tubes or 3 chromoly tubes. That means you have the top and down tubes made of a better alloy like this one. But you only have those 2 tubes. So the back end suffers when you grind or when you do a 180 and fail. This last month, we've seen several bikes here in the shop with the back end bent, your helmet, the bike, all your weight. affects the back end. And if they're simple, they can bend. So another thing you're paying for. When it's crumbly, when you have pegs, when you grind a lot, you can't even get the pegs out. They get stuck. Oriol's laughing because he knows what's happened to him. And why is that? Because the dropouts, right? This piece here is regular steel. And when you grind, you fail, you hit it here and it bends. So, of course, if you don't grind, if you don't use pegs, you don't need a good frame. Well, we start, and I always say everything breaks and everything cracks. But that the lifespan of the parts is much longer. Much longer. The first thing you don't see, because you don't see it, but you pay for it, is the quality of the tubing. Something you can see, which is also super important, is the headset. This headset, you see, it was the typical loose ball bearing headset. So this piece goes into the frame under pressure. When you crash a lot and bail and land hard, it can happen that this cup comes loose, moving inside the frame, and there's no fix for that. When you're a bit more advanced and start flying, jumping, the cups are going to give you problems no matter what. The solution is an integrated headset. That is, the frame itself already has the shape to fit a sealed bearing, a bearing. There we'd have balls. Here we'd have, which you can't see, but they're loose little balls. Here we'd have a sealed bearing, which if it gets damaged, because it's really hard to break a headset, if it gets damaged, you just have to buy a headset that costs 30 or 35 euros, put the bearings in, and that's it. Whereas if this one gets damaged, the frame gets widened, then the headset, poof, no fix. New frame.
Fuck.
Yes.
If we continue with the frame, things like what you pay for but don't see. We could also talk about the fork and handlebars. You see them and well, you might like the look of one more, right? This handlebar is high 10, plus it's really heavy. So grab it first.
This one's definitely the
That's
expensive.
the pricey one. So it's full crumbly, perfect. And he's grabbing this one, which is the cheap one, which is it's a stock bike.
You can tell, right?
Can you tell the change, huh?
So like this handlebar's better. It's gonna weigh more, but no.
Nah, because it's heat treated. Right, heat treating. That's where they mess with the steel's molecules, make them smaller and tighter, so it's tougher too.
Lighter and tougher.
Right, so we're talking about an 80 euro handlebar. Here, we see a 30 or 25 euro handlebar. And this thing we just explained, we can find it in the fork and the handlebar. Here we've got two forks. Aesthetically, they look the same, but they're super different. This is full crumbly, this is heightened. If we look closely down here, don't you see this is welded?
Yeah, okay.
Look at this. It's clean. It's clean, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because this piece is one whole piece. And this little tube here is another tube they hook up and weld. You can weld these two? This question mark. Nah, this is one whole CNC piece all the way. And welding these two pieces here, which makes it way tougher, stronger, not for competing. When I was competing in Inglada from a bad landing, this tube came undone. Crap, you know? Exactly, you had...
Didn't you bite the dust?
Nah. But well, the fork died in that competition. So to start, is this fork any good? Well, it's got a bit of level. This fork would be the one that comes stock on a cheap bike under 400 euros. And that would be a fork that comes on a bike either built from parts or high-end.
What's the price difference?
Look, this one doesn't even hit 90 euros. This one that's kind of good, that's the plus, but the stock ones...
There are worse. I mean, this one's worse than this one, really.
Look, this one costs 50 euros, and this one, a good full Romilly fork. Any brand, like a Piaita, at least 150 and up.
This is the one I recommend.
750 to 200. That's a normal full Romilly fork.
By the way, Pera, you said you used to compete. Yeah, we're gonna leave them wanting more details, like how you competed and all. We're gonna do a podcast, guys. We're gonna upload it in a few days with Pera. It'll be the first on the channel, and we're gonna ask him everything. So you gotta subscribe to the channel.
There's a scoop we've got hidden around here that I'd like you to announce with me.
All right, so guys, subscribe because there's a podcast coming with Pera, and we're gonna ask him all kinds of stuff. All right, so let's keep going. What else?
We've already mentioned 3 important differences that you can't see, and they're always tied to the rider's level. I never advise spending 1,500 euros on someone who's just starting out, because even if you have it, you don't know if you'll like a short back frame, a long one, with a higher or lower handlebar, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. You got to ride at least a year to have some criteria. So we've said 3 important things. Look, a cheap frame It doesn't even hit 100 euros. A good frame is 380, 450. Look at the difference. A fork, we said 50 euros, 150 up. A handlebar, 30, 80. Now we're seeing why. Also, the lifespan of this bike is much shorter than that of a good bike. That when you spend on good components, you're ensuring you'll have more BMX bike time without it giving you problems. But it's also important that they determine the bike goes smoother or more. The bearings, for example. This bike here, we've said the headset is ball bearings. If we look at the wheel, it's also ball bearings. All right, we look at the bottom bracket here. It has an American bottom bracket, right? With a very big box that's also ball bearings. And this weighs a ton. And the back is also ball bearings. All ball bearings. You can't see all ball bearings. It's a bike that works, yeah, but it's heavier. And when one of the parts breaks, it's hard to find a replacement. Why? Very simple, because if you've already broken this component, it means your level is higher than this component. Today, you have more level than a year ago. So if you're going to put a ball bearing wheel, you'll break it better in a month. Whenever you break something on the BMX, you improve, right? So here you can't see because it has covers, right? But the wheels would have sealed bearings. The box is already smaller. As you can see, this is the Media Myth, which is standard. It has a bearing. And the rear wall also has a free coaster with bearings. The good thing about this is that when it breaks, it's just a bearing. 20, 30, 40 euros. And you're good to go. The stems. Aesthetically, you could say the two are top cap, huh? More or less, they look the same.
Yeah, more or less.
Very, very different in how they're built, how they're made. The Revo spokes, one would be a cast stem, meaning there's a container and you throw hot stirred aluminum inside the mold. And when it cools, you take out, well, a little bit, 4 little things of imperfections and that's it, right? But in this process, there can be air impurities inside. A fly that comes out right at that moment.
A lot of things happen in China.
Which means the stem inside has like small gaps, micro spaces that can make it break more easily. Instead, here we'd have a wide people CNC stem. Those are the initials, right? And it's a solid block of aluminum. And with machines, they make holes in the design, right? And you get the whole thing. Well, as you can see it, right? Which means inside here at a molecular level, the aluminum is also more compact. The other day, they taught me how to make burgers, right? I say that because it's like that, because we buy ground meat. You're even freaking out, right? Well, I made 15 burgers, onion, garlic. They kept falling apart and stuff. Well, the person who was teaching me took the meat block and started throwing it hard into the other hand. And what did it do? The meat compressed. And when the meat compressed, it went like this. Hey, it's a perfect burger. I was blown away. Well, it's a bit like that. Right here, the aluminum. Let's say like it's an open meat like that with many spaces, which means it would break all over. And here we have a compacted burger that has no impurities inside, that has no space to break. Very good.
And what's the price difference between this stem and the other?
It would be a fried chicken.
A €1 McDonald's.
This one could easily be worth 20 euros a stem. Yeah.
It's that cheap?
Yeah. And a good stem is 80. It's double. But it's true that when you get close to jumping or the stem breaks,
That's scary.
knowing a screw that people sometimes strip screws, it's not worth money. So, okay, but everything is justified to the rhythm of your level. You know, as you improve, as you do bigger things, you got to get better parts.
And a question, you were saying, of course, the cheap is the most expensive, but are there stems or are there other parts that are in between? Or is it black or white?
In stems, it's almost all black or white because it doesn't make sense. It's your part. It's a super important part of the handlebar grip. So spending 60 euros on something internal,
There isn't hobby? It's breaking a stem like that. I mean, you gotta be...
everything's here. What happens is people strip the screws. That's the most common thing. Just like in handlebars, there are more options, right? In handlebars, then we have that this is a 40 euro handlebar that is chromoly, but it's not heat treated.
This would be a full-fledged intermediate.
40 euros, right. Plus the 80, we're saying the 20-something 30 of a handlebar.
Of course, then maybe if you don't do gaps, but you're not a newbie either, this handlebar might work for you if you don't have the money to spend on an 80-buck white people.
So they're mid-range handlebars, yeah, but in stems. In stems, it's either cheap or good.
most of the parts. Is there usually a bit of in-between on any specific one? Nah, but okay, that's cool. So what's next? Let's see.
Something you said. Well, look, with the money you save, buying the frame, PI raid seat, yours, the Inglada signature one. Here we couldn't, for example, the Revo spokes, we can't. Why? Because this bike, to lower costs, what they've done is put a combo. A combo is,
That's right.
and the seat post is hooked on, they're hung, it's very light, but you can also fall on your butt several times, and it ends up breaking. Instead, here, right on the top of the line,
Like this one.
we already had a pivotal seat, meaning if it's anchored, it's grabbed here. Here you put in a 6 wrench, there's a screw, and you grab the 5 seat post. Here there's a nut, there's a spline, and you can manipulate, you can move the seat's tilt to your liking, right? This is much stronger than that.
And what price difference would there be more or less between a combo if you bought it separately? And
The combo might cost you 20 or 25 euros and gives me, well, any seat. Any seat goes from 40 to 50 euros. The seat post goes from 20 to narpadaude.
here we're talking about 2 pieces, but they're way stronger, strong units, not just that.
You can manipulate,
And more comfortable.
much more comfortable, right? Another important little thing.
There's a lot.
There are several.
Cloth.
So they've realized people just pay up and gotta trust what you're saying, right? Because it ain't some invisible gas or nothing. It's just a slightly wider tire, you know? That's the deal.
Yeah, you can tell.
Here, this one's single ply, simple. This one's double ply.
Okay, if it's better, let's see it. Put on the hat. Nah, come on, let's go.
Single ply, double ply.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see right through the hole.
It's still there. Of course, it's double ply. Is that it? No, there's 1 ply and the one underneath. First of all, it's obvious that if it's double ply, it's got double the resistance, or more than double. Also, spoke thing, right? The spoke here, once you put it in, if it comes out, it can puncture the tube easier. But here, since it stays down, you got a bit more margin.
Millimeters, which ain't good either, because a lot of folks say it don't matter. Yeah, well, because the spoke head ain't grabbing the thread right, that's why nothing comes out. That's when we get the most out of the spoke head and the strength, you know? Downside is it's heavier.
Maybe it's one of the few pieces that's more expensive, but also heavier. But it's really much more resistant, like I said,
A lot of mid-range bikes, stock, they just come with double ply in the back, not the front.
I get that it's the one that takes the most abuse,
A
right? The
budget
rear
bike,
one.
like the entry-level ones, both wheels are single ply. Then on this wheel, for example, if you break the rim, it ain't worth me putting on a double ply rim because you got the ball bearing hub. You got to go for a whole wheel, which is at least 150 bucks, which is kind of what we did with your bike video.
Yeah. If you wanna check out that video, I got the whole series. The link to the playlist will be in the description. Okay. How we transformed it from a Decathlon to a 1,000 euro bike.
Man, kids come in here telling their dads, nah, dad, check it out, this decathlon bike, which honestly, I really like that video because it educates, you know, to make people understand. If you want to do BMX, you can't buy a cheap bike. Just like if you want to go climbing, you can't use cheap ropes. I mean, you're risking your life. Another really important thing is the cranks. Something else that people don't see or value is that a stock bike always comes with the sprockets on the right. What happens? Well, not half the riders, but a lot of people run pegs on the right, so it's much better to switch the drivetrain to the left. Otherwise, you'll damage the chain, damage the frame, damage the sprocket. So, what's up? Stock bikes, you can't put on this piece that holds the sprocket, and you see there's nothing here on this crank, right? You can't change it, not here, and we can't just take everything and flip it around. We all know that. We've done it. I have too. But when you don't know
Which
the
in the
pedal
end,
threads go the
the
opposite
final
way,
bike has nothing left
then
from
what?
the original bike.
It keeps coming loose.
Of course, if it's got the inverted
It's
bolt.
backwards. Best case, you don't even notice. Then one day you're riding with it kind of loose, and when you take it apart, you strip the thread, and boom, those better cranks are toast. You see, we got the sprocket on the right, but here on the left, you see there's another hole too.
Yeah, it can be placed.
On the other side. So, when you're paying for good cranks, the difference can be 50 bucks or 150, 180 or 100 bucks.
More like doing the math, guys. The difference is
You can switch the drivetrain to either side if you want. Nah, it's all the same to me because I'm right-handed. But imagine you're selling the bike in a year and the buyer's left-handed. You can say, nah, I'll switch it for you. You know? basically, you're making the most of it. And these are full chromoly heat-treated steel. Those things weigh a ton.
Well, the sprocket's worth it too. Difference? Yeah, well, also...
You can reinforce it, then you can really beat on the crank. You ain't gonna break it. Well, in this case, we'd go with an aluminum sprocket, right?
Not with a
It
guard.
covers it, which lets you give it a lot of hits, a lot of slams, some guarantees it won't split. So you're running a
Sprocket, you're carrying a sheet of paper
metal,
made of...
you fall 4 times and the sprocket's already bent.
But this has a free coaster, right? That'd add a bit too, wouldn't it?
If the guys are already in the market, they're good.
But for example, a stock bike rarely comes how it's increasingly required, not on a scale.
Wow. ¿Qué precio? Hostia, es una
It's a
bici muy
really
barata
cheap
con
bike
coaster,
wheel.
¿eh?
I thought the cheapest stock BMX on the market would be at least 600. Before, I'm a bit out of date. By the way, is the fridge working good? Yeah, have him test it. You remember how you fixed it for me? He fixed my fridge a while back and I tried it out to wrap up. Of course, we hadn't, but the workshop worked really well. The workshop, because it didn't come out.
El voto de confianza que hiciste en los Extreme cuando estabas narrando en directo con TV3, que pinchó el inglés, ¿no? El locutor oficial, ¿no? No daba mucho por mí. Y tú ahí dejaste un poco de, ¿no? de esperanza, ¿no? Y nada, gracias.
It's really funny because I'm on TV commentating the BMX final at Extreme Barcelona, and suddenly the Englishman punctures the favorite and it shows on TV there. And I was saying, chill dude, if I do a workshop, maybe I can fix it. It's tough. 4 minutes to fix a puncture.
La ronda de cada rider y después volvía a salir él. Y es verdad que el seleccionador inglés también me echó una mano, pero fue súper rápido y qué lástima que volvió a hacer
Sí,
lo mismo.
es que
Bueno,
me acuerdo.
iba a ganar. Vale, ¿qué más? ¿Qué más?
A ver,
bueno, en este caso porque
¿cadena?
esta cadena es más buena que la otra, pero eso,
There's not that much difference in the chain. I think it's the least.
Bueno, una cadena de 10 euros a una cadena de 40 euros sí que se
Note 40 euro. Okay, this chain, damn.
Porque aquí hemos hecho la bici más ligerita, a lo mejor son 20 y pico, 30 euros, ¿no? Pero también, pues os digo, cuando compráis una bicicleta en 360, podéis hacer modificaciones. Ese Uriola hay un apartado que pone observaciones y ahí puedes decir, por favor, envíame la bicicleta, cámbiame la cadena o cámbiame esas cubiertas.
Claro.
Of course, I can, for example, go to the website, use the code on this bike, for example, and say, hey dude, I want the wide handlebar, the worst type, and you, I think you subtract the price.
Yo te abono un poco del manillar de serie, lo único que tardamos un día más porque nos tiene que llegar la bicicleta del almacén, nos llega aquí, yo la saco de la caja, manipulo lo que tenga que manipular, cambio lo que tenga que manipular, se hace la suma resta, la persona nos paga la diferencia y ya está. Sí.
Very well, and that's it. Look, I'm missing one of the tires. I was gonna say something else, but
Claro, es que van saliendo cositas. Esta cubierta son 20 euros, esta cubierta son casi 40.
because what changes,
Porque la estructura, ¿sabes? La parte interior, tienen como costillas, como nosotros, ¿vale? Contra más costillas tiene, más aguanta. Y más aguanta también en PSI, en presión. Más aguanta los impactos, ¿no? Y son esas cubiertas que tú la montas con la bici y en los giros, cuando vas de manual, ¿no? No es como que flambea, ¿no? Si vas rápido. Es porque tiene pocas costillas, entonces la cubierta como que flex. Una cubierta, en este caso, pues la Skull aguanta hasta 100 PSI, internamente tiene muchas costillas y tú cuando te inclinas, la cubierta se queda ahí quieta y tú puedes hacer lo que quieras.
I honestly notice it a lot now that I've sometimes put on a worse tire than the ones I had before. Guys, I can't even do a manual 180. Besides,
Revientas más, se gasta antes, ¿no? Pero sobre todo es la torsión.
okay, grips. Maybe this is what changes the least, right?
Sí, porque mira, estos puños baratos valen 8 euros.
8 euro, not bad.
Buenos te cuestan 15, entonces no es dinero.
Well, it
Bueno,
feels
se
a
nota
bit
un poco
better,
mejor, pero
but
tampoco
it's
es que
not
haya
like
una
there's a
locura
huge
de
difference.
¿Sabes?
The pedals,
También, sí, aquí son pedales sencillitos de 15 euros. Aquí
thinner, right? Maybe because the material must be different.
El compuesto. Lo sabes, ¿no? Que yo antes del COVID iba una vez al año a Taiwán a visitar las fábricas, ¿no? Yo ya viendo el color mate de esos pedales, diferenció que la calidad del nylon es peor que este.
So there are qualities of nylon, right? This one's better.
¿Ves? Este pequeño brillo.
Little shine, bad, no bad, really bad.
Claro, ya estamos hablando de cosas muy técnicas, ¿no? Entonces, unos pedales malos valen 15, 18. Si los pedales buenos son entre 20 y 25.
And I understand it's maybe little, it's just
Claro, es
that.
que es todo, claro. Que yo, por ejemplo, en la tienda no tengo radios malos. Todos los radios que ponemos son buenos.
calidad.
Claro, es que es tontería. Un radio te cuesta 50 céntimos. Uno malo, 25 céntimos. No compensa perder rigidez. 3 euros.
Conclusion of the video, guys, there's nothing that's saved is the same. I mean, everything's different, not surprised at all. Yeah,
Nada de esta bicicleta es de la misma calidad.
nothing, the stem bolts are the same, seriously.
¿En serio?
Que va. Estos medios pesan más, los coges. ¿Por qué? Porque el acero, lo que hablamos de la hamburguesa,
Yeah, also, maybe not.
¿sabes? Son mucho más duros que no los
They come with the stickers,
¿Pegatinas?
Pues te diría lo también, sí.
Se ven más
good
buenas
ones,
las
oh my god.
muñequitas
Well,
que
guys, I
las
think
veo.
we've had enough comparison today. It's been crazy. I'm obviously from CDMX, but I didn't expect this. I mean, today I've learned a lot with Pera, and I really hope you have too. I hope you liked it and that it helps you when choosing not only a BMX, but also choosing parts. But in the end, what we've done is a comparison of good parts with cheap ones.
Para sintetizar, ¿vale? Diría, si es la primera bicicleta, cómprate una bicicleta económica. Y si realmente te gusta, el año siguiente ya puedes invertir más dinero. Si es tu segunda BMX, no te compres una bici barata. Esto pasa mucho, Oriol. Gente que viene también de fuera, gente que lo ha dejado por estudios o por lo que sea. Es que quiero empezar. Tú ya has hecho BMX antes, con lo cual no te puedes comprar una bici tan barata. Primera bicicleta, 400.
Of course, to learn, they go and do a manual
¿Es
180.
algo mejor? 500. ¿Es tu segunda bici? 500, 600. Y si ya realmente quieres algo definitivo, es decir, ya está, ya sé las medidas que me gustan, vamos a montar una bici a piezas, a partir de 1200 te puedes montar la bici a tu
Awesome machine, if nothing. I'd like to ask you a small favor, and that is that you comment on what mechanical tutorials you'd like us to do with Pera. Next time, give him work. We're gonna get a lot out of him next time we come to visit Barcelona. Use the code at the 360 store on all BMX parts, clothing, vans, also on everything.
Hasta las cosas, Uriol, que tienen descuento, ¿eh? Wow. Es decir, cuando alguien pone el código Inglada en la página web, si la pieza, por ejemplo, hay zapatillas Vans que tienen descuento, pues sobre el descuento que tienen aplicamos tu 10%.
Nice. Well, you know, guys. And lastly, guys, download the City Legends app, which has the best map of spots in the whole world. And if there's a spot missing, and there are some really cool challenges where even if you win, they'll give you company shares. I mean, you can be a co-owner. Yeah, if they give you 250 bucks in company shares, because I say 50 could become 1,000, right? Or more, you never know. It's a startup, and well, guys, I'm signing off. Follow us on social media, and we'll see you in the next video. Boom fresh.